Did the Pacers get robbed?
No, they did not. By the way, you guys may not know, Skip was a pretty darn good writer in his day. Man, that intro was something.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
That was on the money.
Thank you. It was on deadline, too.
Yeah.
You know how that goes.
Yeah. 100%. No, they did not get robbed. They got out executed. And I was actually surprised because in looking at, and you mentioned it, the minutes and the difference in the benches, the Indiana Pacers in the final minutes of that game looked like the fresher team to me.
Yeah.
And yet it was Jalen Brunson against the world getting it done while Tyrese Halliburton, one thing we love about him is he plays fast and loose and easy. And he played fast and loose and easy in the final minutes of that game and in the fourth quarter. I'm looking at Skadoosh in terms
like
of points. Zero assists.
Zero assists.
Didn't get anything done in the fourth quarter. Had 3 turnovers in the fourth quarter, including a couple at the end, and could have had a fourth one on a cross-court pass that I was like, wow, what are you doing? What's he thinking, right? And then meanwhile, you have Jalen Brunson, who is just a marvel. He's playing against multiple defenders, guys who have greater length and size. The Knicks don't run anything complicated. It's basically give Jalen the ball and let's see if you can get something. And indeed, he did time and time again. I don't know if it's a recipe that is going to work over the long term, but in this game in particular, no, this was not the Pacers getting a bad whistle. This was the Pacers not finishing the job.
And that's what it always comes down to, right? The fourth quarter. We look at the first 3 quarters and we look at what guys do statistically, but the fourth quarter in the NBA seems to be where your meat and potatoes is at. When you allow a guy to score 21 points, get to the bucket at will, at ease, better yet, no matter how many different defenders you're throwing at him, the defenders you're throwing at him are slightly taller, not as quick. They don't have the same sort of pace as him, and he's able to just do things at will. And I know going into this series, everybody said, hey, they don't run deep into their rotation. They're going to give you 6, 7 men. Meanwhile, you got Indiana that's up and down the court. They're going to go 9 deep. It doesn't matter, though. It doesn't matter because this is something that they've been doing all year long. They've been going 6, 7 deep all year long. So when you start to look at them wearing down in the end, they just turn to their main guy.
Hasn't mattered yet.
Well, but all we can talk about right now, Rick, is today. We can't worry about tomorrow. We got to worry about today and what happened last night, right? You can say, we could say, oh, they can wear down over time. Well, they got to get through this series to even worry about the next series.
But I could see it being an issue in this series when you're talking about the Pacers' second fastest pace of anybody in the league, all that depth. And again, Skip, it's Jalen Brunson is the guy. And it's not even like, first of all, undersized, and I disagree with you. I think Nembhard, I think those guys are just as quick. Jalen Brunson's ability to change direction and just find the airspace to get his shot off is the difference maker. He's not blowing by guys.
But if I could get my space, because I'm quicker than you to get to my spot and get my airspace, that tells me right there your length is not affecting me at all.
I think it's just his understanding of what his spots are. And the threat of him being able to finish multiple ways at the rim, pull up, hit the mid-range, and hit the 3. If you just give me a little bit of a window, it's not Steph Curry, which is what makes it so remarkable, because Steph is playing off the ball, and he's got Draymond finding him, and he gets easy stuff here and there. Jalen gets nothing easy.
Nothing.
And that's where I just, over the course...
But see, you say he doesn't get anything easy, Rick?
Yeah.
He gets it easy because he creates it for himself to make it easy.
He does, but he's got to work really hard to be able to get that. And if I'm throwing Andrew Nembhard at him, and I'm throwing T.J. McConnell at him, and he's got to guard them at the other end, and you got to do that for 48 minutes, and he literally, for him, practically 48 minutes, I just question if the longer this series goes, the more I question whether they can sustain this.
But this is the same conversation to a degree that we had in the Sixers series. Can Jalen Brunson, by himself, do these sort of things because they're going to throw different bodies at him, yada, yada, yada. And then all of a sudden, he's in the second round.
Without question. But the Sixers, because of Joel Embiid, are going to play slower. than the Pacers
Yeah,
are.
that's
They're going to take the ball out, and they're going to come right back at you over and over and over again. And they have an advantage in depth and length. And look, I know that this is the job that this is the strategy that Rick Carlisle is employing. He's like, I know Tom Thibodeau. Tom is not going to change.
No, he's not. So, I said yesterday, I get tired of watching Jalen Brunson dribble the basketball because he dribbles the air out of it, and it works. Maybe he bores you to death, but he just keeps dribbling and dribbling. His usage rate last night was 35%. Josh Hart and DiVincenzo were 19%. So he's just going to have the ball in his hands most of the time.
Stop it.
And what's that? You got to stop it.
Stop
and
it.
Yeah, he's got some NFL in him. He's got some fullback in him. He plays strong and stout because I don't know how tall he is. They list him at 6'2", maybe 6'1"-ish, maybe.
He's Chris Paul 6'2".
Yeah, that. And yet, Keyshawn, he is bouncing people off him. He's using elbows and shoulders, and he is creating space with his strength and his step back and fall away. And I don't know how he gets his shot off. Half the time I think that's blocked, and it goes in.
Creating
and
space.
He does. It's beautiful to watch in the end if you can just hang with the dribble, 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 dribble. All right, do not underestimate what Josh Hart did last night because look what he gave you. He gave you 24 points and 13 rebounds and 8 assists. That's a big-time basketball game to me, so don't tell me he doesn't have any help. And he did that on 9 of 13 shots. And don't tell me that DiVincenzo, once called the Michael Jordan of Delaware when he was in high school, can't play to some degree because that shot he made with, what was the three-point shot that he made with 40 seconds left, that's the shot of the night because it's tied, and he makes it to go up 3, and that's what they hung on to. He is not afraid of the moment, and he had 25 points and made 5 out of 9 threes. So don't discount those two. And now we get back to what I told Paul Pierce yesterday. Again, you weren't here, but we went back and forth. He loves the Pacers in this. I like the Knicks. And I said, who's their dog? Who's their closer? Who do you fear? Who's going to say that's enough? Who's going to say, I got this for the Indiana Pacers? Because I'm not sure yet. I thought maybe mid-year it was Tyrese Halliburton. He was questionable last night with a back spasm, and when he did his between quarters interview, he was wearing that strap around back brace. I don't know, but to Rick's point, man, when you play 9.5 minutes of the fourth quarter and you give me bubkus, as you say, like no assists and no points, you don't even take a shot. You take one shot in the whole second half. Okay, it's not good enough, and if you can't play, let little TJ play, because TJ can play. Again, I'm rooting against the Pacers last night, and I feared TJ a lot more than I feared Tyrese, because when TJ came in, he made 9 out of 16 shots. He made things happen. Yep.
But it's hard to take a super.
No, I know.
A star player.
It's hard. I don't blame.
To allow a role player.
And they won't.
Yeah, it's just hard. It's hard to do.
They gave
even though he had
TJ,
a better game.
He had a much better game. He had 22 minutes of run last night, and every second counted because he was a +9, and Tyrese wound up a -12. Okay, so the point is, it did come down to these two plays. So let's take them one at a time. The kickball play, I don't even know. I don't know how they missed it, because it clearly wasn't even close to being kicked. It wasn't like you look at the replay and say, boy, that's too close for the eye to tell. They just flat out swung and missed on it.
Call.
Yeah, it's a phantom. Here it is. The quote-unquote kickball play. Jalen gets very careless with the basketball, and he did there.
Yeah, I will say, the referee who called it, his angle is really bad. Yeah. Because he's behind Nesmith on that. Okay. So, but he called something that he technically did not see.
It looked like it hit his hand originally. Yeah. Like because his right hand is kind of floating around.
Well, you also have the ricochet of the ball. It's moving one direction. Yeah, suddenly it's going this way. And Nesmith is running in that direction, so it was by deduction rather than observation.
He guessed.
He made that call.
And he guessed wrong. Yeah. Okay, now we get down to the Miles Turner moving screen. And by the letter of the law, he, to me, is moving. Do you make that call at that moment in that game? Because it's 12 seconds left and they are down 1 point.
Yep.
And so this is for the game right here. And you are moving slightly. And does DiVincenzo sell it and flop? Yeah,
That's
he
such
does.
I've seen that 30 times in a game.
Okay. But is it okay to call it then?
No, you don't call. You just play basketball.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Yeah, I've seen that same
I thought you
screen.
said it's been called 30 times.
No, I've seen that same screen, and you have too, Rick.
Yep.
30 times in a game.
Yeah. The one distinction is he's not moving laterally, he's moving forward. And that's where technically they're going to call.
Slightly, though.
Understood. The biggest issue that I have with it is that on a previous call, Dante was upset because he thought he got flopped on. And I know he went into that play thinking, oh, you're going to call flops?
I'll flop.
I'm going to get you to call another one. Because otherwise I got a real issue that you called the one flop and you're not calling this one. So that it was premeditated on his part.
Top. That's such a flop. That's
There
such
you
a
go.
flop. That's unbelievable.
Understood.
He barely touched him.
But Dante was the same way.
No, true.
They're both flops.
True. No, true.
And that's the issue that I have.
So, Keyshawn, I think you are saying that the Pacers got robbed.
I
Because if
believe.
you make those two calls the way they should have been made in your eyes, the Pacers have 2 more shots to win the game.
I wouldn't have called it if I was the ref. I wouldn't have called it. Because although he's slightly moving, his momentum in being able to brace yourself, you're going to move. He's not a statue. He's going to move slightly when he's getting to his spot, embracing himself for the collision. He's going to move something.
Okay, but you can't move your feet.
But you
can't.
I understand that, but you're going to move something, Skip.
Yeah, but
It
by
just
the
happens.
letter of the law, he is slightly moving to his right.
Yeah, so don't just ignore it. Let him play basketball.
It does get ignored a good bit. And I must admit, I was shocked they blew that whistle at that moment.
Especially because it essentially decided the game.
It did. I mean, I don't know that Indiana would have scored, but they didn't get a chance.
I mean, you got 12 seconds to go.
And you're sending them to the free throw line.
Yeah. So you would think that they probably would score.
They've been scoring all night. In fact, up to the 10-minute mark of that game, I thought the Knicks had no shot because they could not stop the Pacers from making shots. All of them.
But
it was all of them.
you also got to realize you're in New York. You're not in Sacramento. You're in New York. And for referees, sometimes that environment will force them to blow the whistle, even though they probably shouldn't.
There are a lot of celebrities in the front row.
It's in New York. It's a different, different beast.
Right.
And intimidation, whether you believe it or not, could factor into a decision being made.
And this is the feel-good story of the NBA season.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, all that transpired.
They don't want to see the Pacers play against the Celtics. They'd rather see the Celtics and the Knicks play because, hey, guess what? Everybody in the city's going to be watching.
Are we going conspiracy theory now with the
Well, I'm going to always feel that way when something like this happens, where you got these two things at the end of a game going against Indy and for the Knicks in New York.
Understood.
In New York. Not in Indiana, but in New York. Who would you rather see play? I know you don't want to say it, but I'll say it for you.
No,
Boston and the Knicks. You don't want to see Indy and the Knicks.
I picked the Knicks to win this series and as a dark horse to go to the finals. And Skip makes a great point about, like, who's your closer with Indiana. That said, the way the Pacers play and the dynamic way they play and Tyrese Halliburton, I mean, we've had series with the Indiana Pacers. They're a regal enough franchise that, sure, market-wise, you want New York. I do want to clarify. Like I said that they go to the free throw line. They got possession. And the Knicks did. The Knicks got possession, and then Rick Carlisle had to challenge, which then took his last time out.
It did.
Because he knew that they're up 2, they got the ball, 12 seconds left. The game's essentially over if we don't get this call overturned. As a result, that was his last time out.
They need to change their rule, by the way.
I agree.
They need to change it.
I agree.
like the NFL. If you lose your timeout. If you win, you keep your timeout, you keep it moving.
I agree. And I think they need to change the rule whereby you cannot challenge the kicked ball.
Yes.
Why not? I mean, it's just like any other play. It's a judgment call. You see it or you don't. Why can't you then review it?
Yeah. Well, I think that the idea is that if the ball actually hits the foot, like that is a pure judgment call as whether it was intentional or not.
Yeah.
But you could tell.
But in this case, it was not kicked.
It was not
But
kicked.
you could tell when somebody is kicking the ball versus somebody bouncing it off one's leg. Even though my motions is my leg is moving, kickball is I'm putting my leg out. That's kickball. That's kickball.
But to your point, like, is my foot moving?
No, but I'm not intentionally.
Did I move my foot and then it hits it? I mean, it becomes a very much a judgment call. Yeah, this is just in a completely different category because he actually didn't kick the ball.
But like Skip said, if I could go review that, I can now see, oh, he didn't kick the ball.
Right.
Go review it.
Understood. I think when they created the rule, it was it was with the thought that we're never going to call a kicked ball when it wasn't kicked. It was just a matter of whether it was intentionally kicked or not, and we don't want to have to walk into having that judged.
All right. So your friend Paul Pierce and I have a bet on this. He's got Pacers, I got Knicks. And with 9 minutes left in this game, 10-ish, there's about 10 minutes left, the Pacers go up 9 points. And I thought, I'm cooked, man. I got no shot. They were making everything they looked at, and it felt like the Knicks couldn't stop anything because they got too many weapons. They don't have the weapon, but at that point, it felt like everybody was involved. And then Jalen Brunson starts to get careless with the basketball, and he should have had 4 fourth-quarter turnovers. He did have 3. The kick ball would have been the 4th one, quote-unquote kick ball. I'm going to show you over the last minute 50 of this game what Jalen Brunson did and got away with, which means this is all maybe meant to be, where they're riding the magic carpet right now. I'm going to show you Jalen Brunson. This is a minute 50 left, and he loses the basketball. That's usually a losing play in a tight game. Then here's the kickball play, and that's just it's a bad pass. I mean, it should have been a turnover on Jalen, and then he got kind of trapped on the sideline. Then he tried to bounce it off Halliburton, and it went right back to him out of bounds. But it was a turnover on Jalen. Those 3 happened in the last minute and 50 of the game, and he had another one at 7:48. Well, it's hard to overcome that unless you're just getting every break, and they needed every break that they got. They got the quote-unquote kickball, and they got the Miles Turner. Without those 2 things, we probably have a different conversation right now. But right now, it is meant to be for the Knicks. They have that kind of momentum at home. And for the sake of the league, I hope it continues. For the sake of me versus Paul Pierce, I hope it continues.
You think go back to the Sixers series?
Yeah.
If you really want a conspiracy theory, just go back to the Sixers series and look at what happened at times at home for them against the Sixers. Just look at that. And then they come out, Rick, with the 2-minute report or whatever it is, and they go, oh, well, yeah, we missed that. Yeah, we missed that.
I would say the same thing in that series, in that Philadelphia had the opportunity to make the plays to win the game. And yes, they got a tough whistle, and Jalen had all those turnovers.
He did.
The Pacers didn't exploit those turnovers.
Well, neither did the Sixers at times. They didn't take advantage of it.
Understood.
But, Rick, even though they didn't take advantage of it, you can't sit here and tell me it's just happens that in this building.
You know what? If the Knicks weren't the number 2 seed, if they hadn't proved over the course of the season that they were the better team, and it happens with players, it happens with teams, you get the benefit of the doubt.
I understand.
And so if it was they're the 7th seed or they're the lower seed and they're getting these calls, I'd say I might be willing to go, okay, what's going on here? I'm like this with Austin Reeves. Like, how is he getting so much respect from the officials? He's an undrafted, nice player, and he's gets a great
Keyshawn's like
whistle.
that. I don't know.
No, he's a likable guy.
So.
Okay, do I think there was a memo sent out, the Knicks are going to go to the next round? No, but is it subliminal in the ref's minds?
I don't need a memo to know.
Yeah.
I'm in the Garden.
I can't believe we're having this conversation.
I'm in the Garden. I can't
believe.
the pressure, Rick, of if this team was not the number 2 seed and they was something else, let's say they was the 6 seed, it probably would be a different conversation. Or if this was because they would be in Indy for game 1 and 2, so it probably would be a different conversation. They're at home the same way they were at home with the Sixers. All I'm saying to you.
Now the Pacers have to win.
All I'm saying to you is, hey, and it's okay. Because as much as I like Indy and Halliburton and all that.
No, it's not okay. You're suggesting that
I'm
New
100%
York should
suggesting.
win.
I'm 100%.
Because it's better for the ratings.
So you don't think that the people on Park Avenue, I believe that's where the office is at, they don't want to see the Boston Celtics.
I'm sure they have a preference.
Okay.
No doubt.
But to suggest that they're
Yes, I'm going to suggest that. I'm going to suggest that sometimes, as you say, you want to use benefit of the doubt. We can use benefit of the doubt to make it sound better. That sometimes with certain franchises, you just all of a sudden I see it. I'm looking at it.
There's no memo to this. It's just
I don't need that. I don't need a
refs
memo.
are just getting caught up in the emotion of the moment.
Exactly. I don't need a memo to know that I got to walk the streets of New York at some point in my life.
I agree.
Okay, but there's this distinction there of getting caught up in the home crowd and Madison Square Garden having a special vibe.
It does.
As a referee and saying, you know what? The ratings are better if New York's there rather than Indiana, so we're going to tilt. That's intentional in a way, as opposed to a human reaction to a certain atmosphere.
However you want to couch it and put it out in the middle of the table,
well,
I'm just here to say that it's human nature, and these referees are human.
Yes.
That when you in the Garden and you understand the magnitude of what's happening right now.
Be careful. You were on a right path there, and you're about to take a turn.
What? Be careful about what?
Because if you're saying it's just it's human nature to have the home crowd tilt you in a certain direction, that's one thing.
The home crowd in New York, though, Rick, only I'm talking about in New York. I'm not talking about the home crowd in Sacramento.
Right.
I'm not talking about the home crowd in Dallas. I'm just talking about in New York right now, a team that hadn't been to the finals since like 2000 or whatever it's been.
70, what is it, 73?
No, not the NBA.
Oh, well, no, but
I'm talking about the final, the Western, the Eastern Conference final. Yeah, they hadn't been in the Eastern Conference final since I was playing for the
94.
Jets or something like that.
Yeah, 90.
Yeah.
94.
Come on now. In New York?
Look, I do think the refs get caught up in how hard the Knicks play in the fourth quarter, because Josh Hart is a hard playing you-know-what, man. You just, refs get influenced by that. Jalen Brunson is just, he is not going to be denied.
And as they should.
Yeah.
Because if you're the more aggressive team, you should get the whistle.
That is true. All right. Okay, we got to ask this question. Is it time for a post-mortem on the Nuggets? Thanks for watching, Undisputed fans. Do you want more highlights from the show? Make sure to click that subscribe button for all the exclusive content from Undisputed.